Hello and welcome to Mark No Horsemanship. Here we are with Daisy, 2.5-year-old quarter horse filly. Daisy's been here a week today. Today's the 7th day she's been here, and Daisy was with me for those that haven't followed along or haven't seen the other videos to know this. But Daisy was with me back in around January or February, somewhere along them lines, um, as a long yearling or close to being 2-year-old, just for some hands on and lunging, and I think I even put the saddle on her a few times then. But she's 2.5 now, and she's back to be finished out. Started under saddle, and plus me riding her too. That's what under saddle means to me, is being ridden, not just started them under saddle. But today we're going to get Daisy prepared for long lining, for ground driving on the ground. And the way I like to do that is I got this little rope right here, and the biggest thing to these young horses on ground driving, getting them used to, is them ropes being around their back legs, so around their hips and things. So I like to just do one rope at a time and hang that around the horn. I want to make sure my saddle's tightened up. I saddled her a few minutes ago and just moved her around in a few circles there. If you remember, Daisy had a pretty good little buck to her there, the first saddling I did here a few days ago, and she's had one more episode like that. But that's to be expected. They're babies; they don't know how to handle things, and so that's to be expected. One thing I just want to educate y'all one moment, and let me turn her this way where you can see better. But on these shorter, I like to use a back girth, and I like to get all the 2-year-olds started with a back girth. And whether the owner is going to use one or not, I like to get them started with one. But when these horses are kind of short, like she is, short, not short in height, but short in length, um, your your cinches, the way they lined up on your saddle. Some of your saddles are different. Some of your riggings are closer to one another than other saddles. But with a wide rigging like this, when I talk about a wide rigging, I mean from this rigging to where your latigo is hooked on, to this rigging to where your back cinch is hooked on. It may have a wide distance. If that's the case, this little piece down here that holds the back cinch, the right distance away from your front cinch, that needs to be drawn in sometimes. Like a while ago, before I drew it in on her, I noticed that the back cinch was setting about right there. If you don't watch it, really, I've heard people nickname them bucking straps, and they're really not bucking straps. They're back cinches. They're for a purpose. They're to help hold that saddle down. But if you don't watch, if you do it like I just said, it becomes a bucking strap. It gets back here to where this ticklish area is, along where it slopes off right here. If you don't watch, it can cause problems. So you want to make sure that back cinch is got a keeper that keeps it from sliding back. It's a piece of leather buckle, a piece of leather with a buckle on it that buckles from your front girth to your back girth. You want to make sure it's got one of them, but you also want to make sure it's drawn up enough. Each horse is different. It'll be, I may have to let it out on the next horse. So that was just something real quick I wanted to share with you all. So the way I get these horses started ground driving, let's talk about the reason why that I like to ground drive them. I like to ground drive them for sensitivity, to get them desensitized, and to get them prepared for a rider. Now, it's always been a big question in this profession that I've been doing now for about 28 years, of when to ride a colt, or why haven't you rode this colt, or whatever. You know, it riding green horses that's never been ridden before is not a time thing. It's a feel. In other words, when I feel like that horse is ready to accept me as a rider, then that's when I'll ride it. But until then, it gets a series of things done. I don't think a lot of people understand how to work a horse every day, especially a green horse. And when I come to the barn and I say I'm coming to work horses for the day, I'm not just coming down here to get them out and exercise them and running around in a few circles. I'm finding things to work on. That's what I call working a horse. So you know, so I don't know when I'm going to be riding, and sometimes it's not even planned. I've did many of them to where I was just working with that horse, and I got to standing in the stirrup, you know, and just kind of playing with them and getting them used to it. And next thing you know, I'm on them riding them. So sometimes it's a feeling and not time. So I hope that helps someone, because I know it's a question on what to do every day with a horse. And I hope that helps someone with some questions out there on when to ride a horse, or why aren't you riding one yet? Or, you know, someone that may be starting to do this for a living and they may be younger than me. I hope that gives you a little bit of insight on what to look for. It's a feeling, it's not time. You know, I know that that kind of is a bummer for those that's paying, you know, the customers, but I try to at least get them rode within a month, and sometimes 2 weeks. It depends on the horse. So it's one thing that you do not want to rush. But I'm going to just lay this rope on one side of her right here. I'm just going to throw it on the ground right there, and I'm simply going to move this horse off in a circle around me. Like I said, this is all in preparation of being ground driven here in just a moment, because here in a moment she's going to have 2 lines on her, and it's going to be it'll be a little bit more confusing to her. So I want her to see that rope. I want her to see it dragging behind her. Now this side right here, usually the side, how can I put it? The side that you're going around to is usually not too bad, because the rope's just kind of out beside them and dragging. It's when you turn them and they go the other way and that rope sits against their hindquarters, is when you get a little bit of a flap out of them after that, a little bit of spooking, maybe a little bit of ducking their tail in the ground and wanting to skirmy around through here. So let's just see what she does right here. I've already did it with her once and she didn't like it too good. Not today, but the other day. And I really didn't have nobody to video. So what I'm going to do is lead her forward, and then send her out right here. And when that rope touches her right there, when it touches that hindquarter, she's pretty over it. The other day she really started snatching and kicking and throwing her feet out. So that tells me that she does learn, because it was quite dramatic for her the other day, and we can see here that it's getting better. Now this is a good time to tell you about that feel, that time. So that I was talking about on getting on these horses. When I'm working these horses, I'm watching them. I'm watching them grow, not in size, but grow in progression. I'm watching them get more settled. I'm seeing signs in them that they're ready to go here, or ready to do that. And when they get really settled with all this stuff, that right there is a good telltale sign that you might be able to get up there and ride them. So I guess what I'm doing is testing the waters, I guess you could call it, on some of this stuff, to make sure that they're okay. So, you know, that's always been the biggest question that I get from people. And to be honest with you, it's a question that I sort of have nightmares about, because, not nightmares, but, you know, well, I'll just flat out be honest. Ain't no use in beating around the bush, just chop it down. It aggravates me when people ask me if I'm riding a horse yet, especially a green horse, because, and it's not been 1, 2, or 3 people that's asked me that over the years. It's been several. And I know everybody's excited and they can't wait. I understand all that. But when you're in here and you're doing this for a living, and I do this for a living, I have no other income, and it becomes a job to you, although I still love it, you know, and you feel like that you know best, not that you're the most, that you're the know-it-all of the horse world. I don't mean that, but after you've done this for so long and you feel like that you know best, and then you got people that are asking you, like, why aren't you riding them yet? It sort of gets a little bit aggravating. But I always tell people, when I get on them, that's when I'll be riding them. So, and I don't mean that as a smarty, but when that horse tells me that they're ready for me to ride them, I ride them. But doing all this stuff right here, the whole point of me bringing all that up was doing all this stuff right here lets me know when they're getting closer. When they get more settled and more settled and more settled with things, that's why you hear so many accidents happening. It's because nobody dots their I's or crosses their T's. I'm going to lead her forward right here, send her out this way, and let that rope touch that hip right there. That's not too bad. So now, with her not reacting to that too bad at all, I mean, she's wanting to kind of jack her leg up a little bit, and that's okay. But we'll let her get over that in just a second. These little fillies, they're they're always a little bit more sensitive than some of your little geldings and stuff, and I don't mind that. I've always been a filly or a mare man right there. Y'all may have heard that, but she just kind of started blowing, and that's a sign of letting a little bit of just letting some pressure out and getting relaxed, and more relaxed. Her head's starting to come down. Right there, she wanted the flat walk on her own. That right there is, to me, a good sign that she's getting pretty settled with that. So right here would be a good opportunity. Right here would be a good opportunity to change ropes. And the reason I change ropes, I'm talking about her halter rope, is because I like a shorter one, because that's a lot of rope right there to tie up. So I'm going to slip over here and get me another rope, another halter with a shorter rope on it. And I ain't going to say I never do, because if y'all remember the horse Olaf, I did work Olaf in a bit while I was ground driving him, but Olaf had a problem. So, but if there's no problems to address with the bridle, and this mare's never had a bridle in, a bit in her mouth. So, but if there's no bitting issues to address, then the only reason I ground drive is for desensitization. So in other words, I don't want to use a bit on this filly right here, this young green mouth filly that's never had a bit in at all. I definitely don't want to put a bridle in her mouth and ground drive her that way at this age, because it's just too much of a shocker, so to speak, on her nose, on putting pressure on her nose and all that. You know, you just don't want to expose her to all that at once like that. That would be way much. So my reason for ground driving is not to teach them to guide. It's not to teach them to turn. It's mostly for desensitizing and getting them quiet, and just getting them quiet, getting them ready for that first ride. So I got my lines here. I've had these lines for about, these ropes. They're just some old cheap, I think, Harbor Freight ropes. You buy it for like $1 a foot or something, 75 cents a foot. I don't know. And hey, where would we be without black tape? I've got them black taped together right here, and oh Lord, I've pulled and tugged, and they've been pretty tough for about, golly, I know I've had these ropes 20 years, and that's the truth. I know I have. I've been in rural retreat here for 14 years, and I know I had them, before I moved here. So at least 20 years. And that black tape's been on there that long too. When I see it getting frayed, I just put some more on it. But it don't take a lot. You don't have to have a lot of fancy equipment to break horses. You just need to have good, durable, strong stuff. You need good ropes. You need good. Your tack needs to be not rotten. It needs to be in pretty good shape. So we're going to run these lines through the stirrups here. I'm going to tie this, make sure my saddle's good and tight. I'm going to put this rope up here and put a couple of clover hitches in it here, and to where it stay put. And I'm going to send her out in a circle with this, with these ground driving lines on. And it takes a little bit of skill, a little bit of feel, a little bit of, just a little bit of doing it before, really, to do this. Because what she might want to do is turn and face me, and because that's what she's used to doing. And if she does that, turns and faces me, then the opportunity for her to get all tangled up in these ropes is greater. See right here, she wants to turn to me. I'm going to push her head away from me and have her walk out. You got to watch they don't kick you. She's not really going to know how to react to this, and that's okay. It really helps these fillies and these young horses learn how to guide around. Right here, you can't let her turn and face you. Right there. Now, see how that's a big deal to them right there? It really does them good, though. Does them a whole lot of good. Have to get yourself in the middle of these ropes here so that you don't get pulled down in the process. So right now, I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to let her wire these things on her, let her feel them grazing her hindquarters. Now, if I wouldn't have done that, y'all didn't see how she acted the other day when I just let the rope drag behind her. And if I wouldn't have done that first and just went straight to this, I'd have got myself and her in a pretty good little pickle. So with me dragging that rope beside her first, before I actually put the ground driving ropes on, it really saved a lot of drama, a lot of mess, and it could have been just a just a bad ordeal for her, and did a little bit on her mind, or a little bit of not damage, but kind of made her think bad about this right from the beginning. A bad impression. So right here, I'm just going to get her over here on this fence, and I'm going to simply ask her to turn right here and head out this way. She don't know what to do. And another thing, what I tell people, there's a couple things that you can do when you're ground driving here, or you can use it for this purpose. One, like I said, it's desensitizing. Two, if you think about it, when you're riding a horse, what's the term mean? What I'm doing right here, I'm ground driving. What's driving mean? Driving means go forward. So I'm teaching her how to go forward. So when I get on her back, which I will be behind her eye, just like I am now, it's sort of simulating riding. I know I'm on the ground and I'm not straddling the saddle, but it's still the same concept of driving forward from my command. When I cluck, smooch, or squeeze with my legs, that will be sort of familiar language to her of when I start riding her, So that's the reason I like to do these things. I'll get back to desensitizing. Watch this stirrup right here. We'll throw that stirrup out there and really get her, broke to things, jumping around. Look at her, how she wants to, just kind of spook around to that a minute. That's okay. That's all right. That's good. That's going to be my leg up there. Of course, my leg shouldn't be coming out that far, but I want to make darn sure that she's not bothered with things down by her side right there. Because like I said, another 3, 4, 5 days maybe. I don't know. I just did a big old speech on how I didn't like to put a time on it. But I'm saying, who knows? In 3 or 4 or 5 days from today, I may be taking the first ride on her. So I need her real desensitized to her sides, just like right there. Now I'm going to turn her this way. Get that rope on that side. Now let's flip that stirrup over here. Get her on this side. Now just to give you a little insight on what I'm thinking, may help some upcoming colt starters out there that wants to know, when do you quit on a horse? I'm getting ready to quit on her. She's had a good session. I got a little bit further along than I did last session. I'm going to get ready to quit the ground driving here in a minute, and I'm going to finish her up with some good old flexing. I've been teaching her lateral flexion at a standstill and then yielding her hindquarters into that. So I'm going to quit on the ground driving here in a minute, and I'm going to work on some lateral flexion. Right here, you got to be careful, because remember, the way I've started her is to turn and face me when I stop her. So if you don't watch, it'll just get all wrapped up in them ropes. So you got to be a little bit experienced with ground driving. So right here, I'm just going to present myself for her to stop. I'll do it over here where you can see her a little bit better. Right here, I'm just going to hold her until she gets tired of that. You can see her shaking her old head. I'm not pulling hard. I'm not going to expect her to stop. I am going to expect her to stop, but I'm not going to expect her to stop dead in her tracks. Right there. Good. Good. Now I'm just going to ask her to back up a couple steps. I want that to be the last impression of this ground driving. Just back up right there. Good girl. Good girl. All right, so I'm going to creep in here and sneak in here and get myself undone here. I always get my get down rope, so to speak, off first, my lead rope. And that way I got something to control her with. Put it right there. Now, she wants to spook around. Be all right. I got her. So while I'm getting these ropes undone, I don't think anyone, well, I ain't going to say that. Maybe someone from a company in, I forget the town. I'm sorry, but it's in Colorado. This hat that I got on, it's a new hat that I just purchased through the Cow Lot. It's a nice hat. I really like it. They custom fit them and custom shape them for you. You fill out a little, fill out form, a shape form on the internet, and they're real courteous. I had a question about it when I first got it and called and didn't get an answer, and they called me right back. I mean, well, not right back, but a couple hours later. And like I said, this is a twister. I think it is. Yes, a twister hat. And like I said, the cow lot in, I wished I'd have thought of the company or the town's name before I started, but you can look them up online. It's in Colorado. It's the cow lot, like I said, in Colorado, and they do a great job. This is a twister. It's got the cow puncher crown. It's a 5-inch brim, relaxed. They call it relaxed taco. You can get more. You can get a half taco, which bends it up more, or you can get the relaxed taco and a wide front. So I like a wide hat, as you can tell. But the cow lot in Colorado does a fine job. I may just send them this as a little. I may just send them this. My wife just asked me if I wanted to sponsor, and I wouldn't mind that. So I might just send this portion of the video to the cow lot and see if they want to put it on there. Let's do a more professional one. Just ordered a new hat from the cow lot in Colorado, and I love it to pieces. And they do a fine job. Courteous folks. If you want a good solid cowboy hat, call the cow lot. So there you go. But anyway, so yeah, cowboy hat. Now get back to work. So I'm gonna get these ground driving ropes off of her right here, and you can see how well this filly's standing. she's kind of a hyper diaper, so to speak. She's got lots of energy. So I think it's extremely impressive that she wants to stand here like she does and just kind of hang out and be a good girl. So I'm going to end this little video here with some lateral flexion, like I said, and hopefully on this old rainy day, y'all are snug as a bug in a rug in your house and sitting back and enjoying this video. Of course, when y'all see this, it may not be raining that day. I don't know when I'll post this, but I forget about that. I feel sometimes I forget that we're not live, but anyway, so we're going to do a little lateral flexion on her right here. And what's the purpose of this? Well, it's to teach her to give where? To give in this neck, to break her right here in half, so to speak, to where you can control her. Now she's giving well, but she's moving her feet. I want to wait on her to get her balance, like right there, and then get soft. I'll move her in a minute, but I'll do a couple of times of a standstill, or my goal is to get her to stand still. She may move around, but that's because she's losing her balance. But right here, we're going to ask her to give again, just to do this lateral flexion. Wait on her to right there, get her balance and release her. Now on this third one, I always ask for the same thing, and then I will, most of the time, I try to not to make it a root, like a cookie cutter type thing, but most of the time I ask her to stop her feet right here, to get her balance, in other words, without pulling on me, and then I'll ask her to move, like right, so she right there. Now I'll cluck to her. I couldn't cluck where I was talking. I had a bunch of spit in my mouth. I couldn't cluck, Berg. So I'll ask her to move on around right here. Why am I doing this? Well, when I get on her here in 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 2 weeks from now, who knows? That's how I'm going to control her. She needs to know that in her mind. So right here, what you do to one side, you always do to the other. I like to hold on to the back of this saddle, because when her butt goes away from me, I can go with her. She's not leaving me behind. Right here is a good, waiting on her to give. Right there, she committed. I like to hang on to the back of that saddle, and that way when they go that way, I go with them. They don't leave me behind. So right here, we'll ask her to give. Hold on to the back of that saddle. She can take me with her. She always has a little bit more trouble on this side. I'm going to stay with her here, keep my feet out of the way so she don't step on me. Right there, she's pulling loose from that. Now she gave to it. Let's talk about a moment why I don't like her to crowd me right there. Let's talk about a moment why she shook her old head and tried to pull away from me. Because it's her nature. She's got a natural built-in resistance. She was born with it. All horses are. That's our jobs as horsewomen and horsemen, is to help try to get along better with these horses by teaching them how to rid themselves of this natural born resistance that they have. Right there, she gave you that. That's the whole point of what I started off on, when to ride and when not to ride. I see a lot of people riding these horses these young horses, and they haven't even worked on resistance. Every horse has got a lot of resistance in it. Sometimes it's not physical, but it's here. And you got to get it out of wherever it's at, whether it be physical or mental. But if it's in physical, you got to remember it comes from the brain. So it's all really mental. And you got to work on that. You got to teach them to give. You got to teach them to be pliable. You got to teach them to be soft. And if you don't, you're a dead goose. I mean, I hate to say it that way, but you're not dead, but you're going to be in trouble because you're going to, that thing's going to take over, and it's going to have all that built-in natural resistance in it, and you're not going to be able to control it, whether it be a he or a she. So you want to break these things down. Nobody wants to use that term anymore of breaking them down and dominating them. But hey, let's just quit beating around the bush about it. That's what it is. It's dominating these horses to where they know that they're controlled and that you have control of them. You might say, well, Mark, you got issues. Well, I don't think I do. I think it's working with horses. You've got to. They're bigger than you. They're stronger than you. God made them under us. He didn't make them above us. We are to dominate over them. So, and He did make these horses to ride and to be work animals. So, if you can't get that in your head, and believe me, folks, there's a lot of folks out there that ask me all the time, especially on my YouTube, why am I even riding a horse when there's cars and trucks to be rode? Let them be the majestical, beautiful animals that they are out on the range. Well, that's fine and all. They are pretty out there. But you tell me what else a horse is meant for. Tell me what a cow's meant for besides eating. What else can you do with a cow? So anyway, we live in a world where natural thinking has been gone out the window. But I won't preach to you today, nor will I get on my soapbox. I hope you enjoyed that little session with Daisy. She's giving good laterally. She's yielding her hindquarters. Got a little bit of ground driving done today. Hey, I'm excited. I can't wait to progress her further. And I want to give her honor. I need to call them more and say hello and that I'm praying for them. But I know they'll watch this video, so I just want to tell them that I love them, and they're in our prayers for any need that's in their family, and we greatly appreciate them, and we cherish them as friends, and we thank the Lord for them. So thank you to everyone that's watching and commenting on these videos. I really appreciate you, and God bless you, and have a good day.